What's up, guys? My name's Rob, and I'm a recovering gambling addict. Today, I wanted to talk about my gambling addiction story, but also three really valuable things that I learned because I battled a gambling addiction. I made my last bet on November the 12th of 2022, and since then, I've made it my mission to talk online about my story and help other people get into recovery because I went down a really crappy path where I was constantly gambling, constantly thinking about the next bet. For like 6 to 8 hours a day, I would compulsively place wagers, and that went on for 6 years. Over that time, I went into debt 6 times where I had to get second jobs just to cover it, and I don't want to see people making that same mistake. But all the time I talk about these negative things that happened as a result of my gambling, the debts, the anger, the depression, the fights with friends and family, but I never really reflect on the positive things that came out of it. Now, these positive things don't need to be accomplished by getting a gambling addiction, but rather the point is that if you're struggling right now, there are positives to take away as you begin to recover and live a better life. So, the very first thing that I've discovered since quitting gambling is I rediscovered the value of money. When I was gambling, money was just the fuel by which I continued to stay in action. I was consistently using it to try to get more money. And there was never an end goal. It was always just make the next bet, get the next thrill, feel the next excitement. And it never was enough. Now that I've stopped, right away I had to pay down those debts. So I understood right then and there, I'm working my ass off, but I'm only getting paid $20 an hour maybe. And before, I would put huge amounts of money on a bet and not think twice about it. Now I would have to work for hours and hours just to recoup those losses. And it really puts into perspective how little regard we have for money when we're active in this addiction. Guys, if you're gambling right now and you're looking at how much you're spending gambling versus how much you're making at your job, what your income is, and you're seeing a huge disparity, it's an obvious sign of a problem. People shouldn't be gambling beyond their means, but anyone like myself who's struggling with a gambling problem knows that that's all we do because that's where the thrill is, that's where the excitement is. And it's a sad thing. But as we leave gambling behind and we start to earn money, we can find enjoyment in our money again. We can use it for things that actually lead to a more enjoyable life. Now I can go out to dinner with my girlfriend and not have to worry about moving money from one account to another just to cover it and save face. I can go out and enjoy it. Whereas before, that money would have been better spent, in my opinion, on gambling. That's such a ridiculous thing to look at when you look at it that way. But if you're struggling right now, you can develop an appreciation for money as you move forward and recognize how much work actually goes into making it. Don't just give it away. The second thing that I learned is that there's real power in community. I've always been someone who's been bad at group projects. I've never wanted to work in a group because I consistently felt as if I could do it better. I could handle it on my own. And maybe that was my ego talking. Maybe it was that I had bad groups along the way. I don't know. But in recovery, I found a community. I go to a 12-step meeting. In fact, I'm sitting outside of it right now recording this video. And every Tuesday night, I go. And the reason that I go is because everyone in there is struggling with the same problem as me. I have a community of people who understand what I'm going through. And, not everyone has crazy, mind blowing things to say on any given week. But every time I go, I get that reinforcement that I'm not alone. For so long, I thought I was the only person on earth with a gambling problem, that everyone else out there couldn't possibly understand what I was going through, which is pretty crazy to think about given the fact that there's millions of people struggling with a gambling addiction right now. But I really had no idea. I thought I was the only person. So once I started coming to meetings and I started telling people about my problems, realizing that they were having very similar problems, if not the exact same issue, made for a really impactful situation. I was now in a position where I could go and ask people what they were doing that kept them away from gambling, what they were doing to deal with depression or boredom, what they were doing to deal with their budgeting. I had a community of people, and this was a group that I actually wanted for one of the first times in my life. But if you think that you're going to handle this all on your own, you're fighting a losing battle. What's the point? You know, it's an ego hit to say that you need help from other people, that you need to bounce your ideas off of other people. But it is certainly something that will end up paying dividends in the future. Every single week I go because I want to. And this group of people, I don't even know half of them, but I know what's going on in their mind and they know what's going on in mine. It's really impactful. The third and final thing that I'll talk about today, the third lesson that I've taken away from my gambling, is that you can take the negatives in your life and create a positive out of it. In my situation, I was struggling with this for so many years. For so many years, this kicked my ass. I was in debt. I was constantly borrowing money. I was lying about it, hiding it from others, depressed, angry, bitter, irritable, frustrated because of my gambling. And now, it's my full time job to talk about it. I was able to take the most negative aspects of my life, package them in such a way that it can help someone else, and it became a positive. You can take whatever struggles in your life you have and help someone else that's going through it. People don't really think that they're qualified to help other people. They think they need to go to school for it, be a doctor, be a specialist in some way. But the number one way to help someone, or the number one person that you can help, is the person that you used to be. If you used to struggle with a gambling problem, but now you're doing well, sharing the ways that you've gotten to that point will help someone else who's in the position that you were in just a few years back. When I was 18, I was desperately seeking some kind of help, some kind of resource to reinforce that I could get better, that I could be okay. But I didn't find it, and I talked myself into gambling for 6 more years. So, to anyone out there that's watching, I hope that you can learn from my negative experiences to inform a more positive future, because for a really long time, I thought there was nothing good that could come out of my gambling addiction. But I'm seeing now that though I had to go through all those years of struggle, all those years of pain, maybe it's going to help someone else to not have to go through it. And that's a positive for me. What's really important is that you get out there, you share your story with someone else, you build that community, you develop that sense of appreciation for money again, and everything one day at a time starts to come together. I really thought that I would never get better, that I would be still gambling right now, that I'd be finding a way to scrounge up money to cover debts, that I'd be in a bad position. But I've turned it around. Why can't you? Nothing that I'm doing is particularly special. Nothing that I'm saying here is particularly difficult. I'm recording myself in my car, not really editing the video very much, as you probably can tell by this point. You can do really, really impactful things that you can't even really have imagined yourself doing before. Things can change when we change, and that's what's important. There was a lot of pain because of my addiction, there was a lot of suffering, self inflicted suffering, but I've turned it around, and so can you. I hope that me sharing my story will help you to live a happier and healthier life. If there's anyone out there that's looking for help, looking for resources for gambling addiction recovery, I want you to check out this video that I've linked here. I share my 4 step system that's kept me clean from gambling for almost 500 days. Let's keep getting better together, one day at a time.